basically, the EOS R5, let me grab it right now. I'm actually recording on the EOS R original right now. And this is the EOS R5 with the 50mm f1.2. I'm going to do this thing where I bring it closer to the camera, and now it gets both of us in focus because now we're on the same plane. Yes.
There you go.
Face detection, exactly. So, really quickly, like some of the biggest differences between the EOS R5 and the EOS R, there's a more substantial grip, and there is a joystick there, and there's no touch bar. So ergonomically, those are really the biggest differences. You don't really have to worry about the rest. The other differences are inside. There's a 45 megapixel sensor in here. I believe it is 45 or so. Better improved autofocus, but the EOS R actually does have very good autofocus too. It's still no slouch. The other really big upgrades I feel that they were talking about were more on the video side. And I mean, I was testing it for video. We're not really a video site. And I was looking through a lot of the reviews that were done, and they're all shooting it at like 4K 60p for no good reason for a half hour, whatever. And I really didn't understand that because 60p video, it's really just meant for slow motion stuff. So you shoot like maybe a 10-second clip and then slow it down. But like in 24p, which is cinematic and what everyone else uses in the world, you can shoot for like a half hour and it'd be pretty okay. You wouldn't really have any problems at all. It will get warm, but it won't stop recording until it gets to like the 30-minute mark. Still, I don't really know very many people that are shooting 30-minute long segments all the time. So,
yeah, I mean, for the most part, you're going to do a couple minutes here and there, stop recording, pick back up after a few minutes after you've, figured out what you've got to say and stuff. So recording for 30 minutes at a time is craziness.
Yeah, no, I thought the same thing, and I'm actually working on an article. I did the interviews like 2 weeks ago, and I was supposed to start working on it, but I didn't yet. I interviewed 5 professional DPs and directors, all about like how they use these cameras, and not just like cameras like the EOS R and the EOS R5 and the Sony a7S III, but like camcorders and cinema cameras. And they're all saying that like even in like as you get to the six-figure range for costs, there are still overheating issues. But then they still had to like find ways to negate it by making everything so much larger to give it like room to breathe, so to speak.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
But for photographers, like, let's dive into the raw files right now. So I'm going to share my screen from Capture One. Brad, can you confirm that you see that?
I do see it.
Okay, wonderful. So these are some of my raw files. I'm going to find one that needs some editing. I think, let's see. Is this edited? No. Let's do something with high dynamic range. Here we go. So we've got this right here. I'm going to move this so that I can see a little bit better. Okay. I'm going to move this to the top. Still can't see. Oh, right. So you guys can still see the screen, no problem?
Yes, sir.
Okay, wonderful. So this is pretty dark. You see that right there.
Oh, yeah.
And we are, oh, that's a JPEG file. That is the CR3. Here is the original edit, or the original file rather. So I'm going to reset. And now you see this is the original. And now when I boost the exposure all the way up, I'm getting quite a bit there. But then when I boost the shadows, I get even more. And it's a pretty usable raw file still. Like, let me boost the contrast. Let me zoom in to show you guys. Like, yes, there's a lot of noise there. But if you wanted to size it down for like maybe 1,000 pixels or 2,000 pixels for the web, it would still be okay at this level. I can go ahead and I can nerf the noise quite a bit in Capture One. And I'm doing that right now, but it is taking a little bit of time to render the same way it would with Lightroom. Actually, if I zoom out, oh, actually, yeah, I'm seeing that those effects right there. I don't know how well you guys can see that, but
yeah, I can see a difference.
Yeah, there's already a difference.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then let me show you guys. I'll show you guys a little bit. Actually, no. Let's do this. The rain stuff. Okay, so when I originally posted these images as JPEGs right out of the cameras, it was really, really clean. And actually, this is ISO 25,600. That's still pretty clean. And that's a CR3, as you see there. But then as I keep going to like 51,200, take a look at all that noise.
Yeah, I can definitely see a lot more there.
Yeah, I feel like that's very characteristic, like Canon noise. Like, I mean, you shot with the 5D Mark II as well, too. That's basically the same amount of noise that I used to see with the 5D Mark II.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. So, but still, at a high ISO, I'm getting a lot of detail. Like, look, I can get all that back. And then if I choose to nerf the whites or choose to nerf the brightness, I'm still getting a lot of detail back on the highlights right there.
Yeah, it's still really good. And I mean, we've got to remember as well, this is 51,200.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, and it looks really pretty good.
Yeah, it really does. And then when I do this, so like, let's say I want to get more details from the shadow. Obviously, I'm going to be introducing more noise into the image, but you're still able, like, look at that. I got all that back. That's pretty awesome, I feel.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But I mean, it's still pretty noisy, even when I overexpose it by around a stop, which is a trick to actually like ensure that noise gets nerfed. You're still seeing quite a bit, and I'm seeing a lot of it here. And this is sort of disappointing to me because when I was shooting this image and I looked into the back of the camera, it was applying noise reduction, but there was still a lot of detail. And the noise looked very film-like, but I'm still seeing a lot of it here. It's rendering the file, and there you go. So basically, you would have to nerf the noise. Also, in addition to that, too, while I'm talking about this, I guess this is really a stress test, 551,200. I don't really know very many people that shoot that high. I rarely go above 6,400. I think once I went, to 12,800. So, I mean, it's, I don't really know how many people will do that. Now,
for me,
go ahead.
I was going to say, for me, it's still really impressive that a 45 megapixel camera, generally speaking, higher megapixel cameras are not as good with high noise images. So for that being a 45 megapixel image at 51,000 is impressive still.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I feel the same way. So what I'm going to do as well is I'm going to edit this image. So that's what it came out like right in the camera. I think I was white balance. Oh, I put it on auto white balance. Oh, that's really weird of me. I usually white balance daylight, like 5,500 in a situation like this. But if I were to do that, it would come out really blue. And anyone that's really shot Canon for years probably knows like the beautiful Canon colors and what it can do for skin tones. And I feel I can get that right here. Like, that's gorgeous to me.
That looks great.
Yeah. And now I can boost the contrast more, boost the exposure more, lower the brightness, lower the highlights. Look at that. That's coming back.
Yep.
I can deepen the black levels, and I can up the saturation, and then I can work individually in the color channels. I think I'm the only person I know that really works individually in color channels. Or at least this way.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, do you do that usually when you edit in Capture One, Brett?
Not very often, if I'm honest with you.
Okay, cool. Well, I mean, it can be pretty cool. Like, I can get this, like, puke green there, or I can get, like, this really... Now it's fall, basically.
There you go.
Exactly. But, I mean, that's actually the tint that's supposed to be. So, I feel it's really great also for skin tones. Let me edit this. This wasn't one of my selects, but let me do this one more time. So, really warming the image up. I'm going to give it a little bit more purple. And then I'm going to bump the exposure up, contrast, bring down the highlights, blacks, clarity, all that stuff. And now I'm just going to saturate certain colors. So the reason why I'm editing like this is his shirt is blue, and I like that. And then the purple, I like the saturation there. And the hue, or the green rather, I think I'm also going to saturate that. So that's the edit, and this is the original. And I think there's a pretty big difference there.
It's a huge difference. And
Yeah.
it really didn't take a whole lot. And that's the great thing. I think even found with the R6 as well, is the files. you really didn't need to do a whole lot to them in post.
Yeah, and I really adore that. Like when I was testing the EOS R originally, I was like, oh man, I don't really need to do a lot with these. Like it's totally different from the Sony mentality. And I mean, the Sony mentality is good, but like, I mean, I've talked about this with other staffers before. I'm one of those guys that really doesn't want to spend more time in front of a computer. Like I do so already pretty much all day. I just don't want it to happen otherwise. So
Exactly.
yeah. Now, here's one that really impressed me. So this was a misfire. I totally screwed it up. And yet when I push the exposure all the way, he comes back, which is pretty awesome. And better than that, I can also still white balance him pretty well.
Wow.
If I go all the way to blue, obviously I'm introducing all that noise. So I'm not going to do that. But like I can go the purple way or I can go the green way. I think the purple way is better. And then if I add a little bit more brightness, I'm still getting a lot of that gray detail back.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but I'm introducing noise, but I can sort of kill that with the black levels. And then the clarity, and then what I can do is I can individually edit in these channels. So I can add more lightness to his skin tones right there. Let's do that. Ooh, no, that's bad. I was like, whoa, what just happened there? So yeah, but I mean, it's still very impressive, just in case you wanted to do this. In a situation like this, I feel like a lot of people would just sit there and just enable black and white.
Yeah, and that actually does look pretty good.
Yeah, and I'm still shocked because, you know, it went from like perfect darkness and you were able to get some details back. So
yeah,
I think it's really fantastic. I do think, though, that it's still sort of lacking in the highlight details. Like, I was able to get it back there pretty easily. But let me go back to some of these sunset images. Actually, better than that, let me go to some photo walk images. So not those, not those, not those. Where is Astoria? Astoria will be not far from here. Well, physically, it's also not far from here, but what I'm talking about is quite literally in this file. Okay, so these were, here we go. It's one of these files. It's not that one. Let's just work with this one. So for a high dynamic range test, because I know a lot of folks like to do that, let's boost the shadows. Let's boost the brightness. Let's lower the contrast, and then let's kill the highlights. And you're getting sort of a workable file there. I mean, you can find a way to work with it to bring back more of those details if you wish. But, I mean, I'm still able to get both a lot from the shadows and from the highlights, and I think that's very important because most people that are buying the R5, I feel like they're either going to shoot it in auto, or if you're actually like really serious, yes, I said shooting in auto, or if you're really serious about your photography, you're probably going to shoot it in manual, and you're probably going to get the metering pretty much right. So, I mean, within reason, I think you'll get a pretty workable file to edit later on. And that's what I'm getting right there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's the dynamic range issues of Canon, shall we say, over the last 10 years or so. It's been one of the biggest talking points with the R5 and the R6. And we've both seen and have both been really impressed with the performance of these cameras.
Yeah. You know, actually, yeah, you're absolutely right. Because I used to shoot with the EOS R sort of like it was slide film.
Yep.
And I felt like that was really the only way that I could work with it. But this, I mean, I'm still shooting it with it sort of like it's slide film because that's just the way I'm taught to shoot. But, I mean, there's a lot of forgiveness of these files, and I'm shocked. Like, even when I looked at your review, like what I saw with the EOS R6, I'm like, a 20 megapixel sensor did this?
Yeah, absolutely. It was fantastic to see for sure.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm going to keep editing a couple files just to you folks so you can see. But I mean, again, I don't really think that people can really go wrong with this camera when it comes to shooting stills. And overall, too, I'm going to stop the sharing here. Overall, too, I really don't think that people can go wrong with the EOS R5 to begin with because there's so much versatility. I think that, you know, there's a lot of dynamic range. There's a lot of great colors. You have fantastic lenses. Um, I was going to talk about the price, but maybe we should discuss this a bit. I was talking about this with a friend the other day. He was like, yeah, the EOS R5 is great, but like, look at that price tag. And I'm like, well, yeah, but also like, look at the innovative lens lineup. Like, they're doing stuff no one else has.
Yeah. I mean, for me personally, I think maybe it's a few hundred too high. I would love to have seen it come in at $34.99 like previous 5D cameras, but I know a lot of that price is also because it can shoot 8K and stuff as well. But there is definitely a lot of innovation in this camera from Canon, and that's something we haven't seen for many years. So if we have to pay just a little bit more for it, then so be it.
Yeah, but also at the same time, I mean, we'd be bad editors if we didn't say, like, wait till the holiday season for the sales to go down and for, like,
Sure.
I mean, I'm sure that, they're going to try to move cameras. So when you buy a camera, you're probably going to get, like, a free pro-ready printer with it or something like that.
Yep, that seems to be what they normally do.
Yeah, like with instant rebates, and I think that's pretty awesome. But, again, we're talking about this, and I agree with you. I do think that it should be cheaper, but I mean, I don't know. I don't know what I want to say about this, because I think that it should be cheaper, but also you're getting access to all those great lenses. And Leica does sort of the same thing, but Canon and Leica are two totally different ball games. I feel like if they lowered the price, then the lens prices would be very justified. Because right now I feel the lens prices are also very high.
Yep, they really are. I believe. Yeah, they really are.
Yeah, but like, I mean, then again, like 5 stops of image stabilization in the 24 to 105, and the 16 to 35 f2.8 I think also has that. And with the 51.2, which I have on the camera, I was looking at it thinking like I'm being shot with a 50, and then I looked back down and I'm like, no, I'm totally not being shot with a 50 right now. I think that the 51.2, like, you still get like 7 stops of image stabilization from it, if I remember correctly, and that's very good.
It's excellent. I was actually going to ask you what you thought about the IBIS in the camera as well, like, because we done IBIS tests on the R5 and the R6, and I think you were able to hold it for multiple seconds, correct?
Yeah, at 105 millimeters, which you really shouldn't be able to hold very long. I was able to hold it for like 4 seconds and barely get any blur or something like that, which I think was awesome. And you were testing it. You were testing the EOS R6 with the 15 to 35. It's a 15 to 35. Yeah. And you were able to hold to like 10 seconds, 5 seconds.
It's 6 to 8.
Yeah.
Yep. I was able to do handheld Astro with it.
That's absurd.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
I mean, years ago, I remember like talking to photographers and being like, that would be the dream. And now it's here. Like,
yeah, you can do it.
Yeah. I don't really know of any other system that allows you to do that. Like Olympus. Yeah.
Yeah, probably Panasonic with their IBIS on their micro four thirds cameras.
Yeah, I was about to say, in the full frame one, like, I've had problems with it, but with Olympus, though, I remember I handheld, I think it was 13 seconds with the EOS, EOS. The OMD EM1 Mark II when it came out, and then the 3 came out. I didn't do a torture test for that. But yeah, no, it was still impressive to do, and I mean, the technology in these things is really great, and you combine that with the image quality and the autofocus. Yeah, I agree. The Canon EOS R5, it's a great camera, but it could be a little cheaper.
And I think it will be eventually. They're going to, I mean, just to be a little bit more competitive, I think they'll have to bring it down, and they will, but it's just come out. I mean, it's like, what, a month old?
Pretty
so
much.
It's, the early adopters always get the higher price.
Yeah. But you know what, though, too? Like, I mean, at the expense of a higher price, like, I'm sure they're not going to replace this for like another 2 or 3 years. And in between all that time, we're going to get new firmware updates. And I think it'll become basically a new camera by that time.
And that's one of the great things about newer digital cameras is the camera you buy is just going to get better over time because of firmware. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they can do, even if they can introduce stuff like pixel shift with the IBIS in the cameras now. That could be a game changer as well down the line.
Yeah, I agree. I wrote this post the other day, and it's scheduled up for October, but Do you remember with phones, like you were able to be like, I'm grab my phone right now. So you could do like these special panoramic images where you're like, do you remember those at all? Like it was basically like the
Isn't that the
Brightness effect.
Brenizer effect? Yeah.
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 And you could do that with your phone, but I don't really understand why you can't do that with your camera. Like that sort of makes no sense to me. Like with Sony, for example, you have the software telling you what to do for a panorama.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, all these other cameras, like they're trying to find ways to catch up to smartphones, but that's one where they're not really catching up at all. Like, why can't I sit there and, you know, you're talking about pixel shift. And I was
Yeah.
thinking like high res shot with Olympus and other systems. Like, why can't I sit there and be like, click, 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 click. And then the camera and the processor will work together to process that image into a super large raw file.
Yeah, that would be fantastic. And who knows, maybe that's something we'll get down the line as you know, pixel shift technology gets a bit better.
Yeah, but I mean, if we were really going to be honest, I don't think Canon's going to be the first one to it. Maybe
No.
Sony. Yeah.
Sony maybe, Olympus maybe. I mean, Olympus did put panoramic features in their EM10-4, which I just reviewed.
Yeah.
And that's really pretty cool. And it works just like it does on the smartphone. You click the shutter and drag it across, and it works great.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, yeah. Actually, you know, I could see Pentax doing it with a K1 Mark III if that ever exists or comes out.
It's Pentax and Olympus are the companies that usually introduce those quirky features.
Yeah. Yeah. Or like, I mean, who knows? Maybe the 645 system might actually get an update.
Oh my gosh, could you imagine?
Before we move on to the next segment, let's check questions really quickly. Skin tone coloring is the reason I stuck with Canon after playing with Canon, Nikon, and Minolta when I was first dabbling digital. Wow, Minolta. Oh,
yeah,
man.
you don't hear that name very often now, do you?
No, you don't, but I love Minolta. Auto today is light years better than auto 10 years ago. I completely agree with you, Rich.
Yep.
Steven, is there a Capture One tool that can selectively dim the blob of sun glare? There is. I know that there's a mask that you can paint on, but I guess I'll do a separate video on that. Thank you for asking. Team Martin, 3500 was my expectation for the R5 as well. I'm definitely going to be an early adopter on the R5 only because I don't want to wait out the law of demand to lower the price. Thank you so much for taking the hit for the rest of us. You are a true American hero. The R5 is my Christmas treat to me. Nice.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah, right? Fuji does the panoramic thing, albeit not to RAW, JPEG only. Yeah. They also, actually... No, they do the same thing with multiple exposure. They used to do it where you could get the RAW, but now in the X Pro 3, it only gives you a JPEG. It's the weirdest thing.
That's a shame.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Especially, like, the X Pro 3 also has a very powerful processor. Like, any of their cameras that have the clarity setting means that it's more powerful.
Right.
And the X-T4 and the X Pro 3 have it. The X100V does not have it. Actually, did the EOS R6 have it? Because the Canon EOS R5 has it.
No, it does not. That's one of the features they took out.
Clarity?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Clarity and the extra lighting effects as well. They took out all of those things.
Okay. I mean, yeah, but it's like 2100, 2400. What's the price again?
Yeah, $24.99.
Yeah, even that's a little pricey. But then again, like that one, I think I could justify to myself a little bit more.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I could justify it too. It's a great camera.
Yeah. All right, let's end the segment because it's around a half hour in. Let's talk about some of our favorite things.